Hey guys, it's Todd with Equip Media. Welcome to the channel. Our goal here is to help equip churches with the training, tools, and tech to better share the gospel. So maybe your church is just getting started with online streaming and you've made the investment into the software, or you've made an upgrade from just doing a basic Facebook Live situation to getting software like Ecamm Live or getting into OBS or something like that. And you find out that you don't have access to maybe some of the applications that would help you to create lower third graphics and overlays that would help your live stream be more polished and professional. Actually, maybe you do have what you need. We're going to show you how to use Apple's Keynote to create custom graphics, overlays, and animations, simple animations that would help you to level up your live stream broadcast. All right, so let's get into it. All right, guys. So now we're getting ready to open up this new session in Keynote. So basically, you want to start a new presentation. And it's just going to be a basic presentation. Click and drag over all of this content, highlight it, and just hit delete on the keyboard. And that's going to get rid of everything in that session so that you're starting from a blank presentation. All right, so the first thing that we want to do is we want to take this background that we see here, which is basically a white background. And instead of this color fill being white, we're going to click and change that to no fill. All right, so what that's going to do is that's going to take away the white. It's going to give you a black background. Later on, this black will turn into a transparency. So basically everything that's black is going to be see-through, and you'll be able to lay this animation or this graphic over the top of another video. All right, so once you've done that and you've cleared the fill and it has no background in it, now our next step is going to be to create this background graphic where the text is going to be. Before I get into that, let me explain what a lower third actually is. If I were to take a video and divide it into 3 equal sections, the lower third of that video would be the area that's called the lower third. And this is where we typically would create graphics or text animations. So of course, this is going to be useful when you've got a speaker that's on screen, or someone giving a presentation, or giving a teaching or something like that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create a lower third. It's going to have a transparent background, and it will animate in and out of your live stream to give it a more polished and professional look. So the first step is going to be that we would create a graphic that the text is going to live on. So again, this is very basic. The tools that we have are quite, they're not going to be as robust as some of the other platforms, but it'll get you by and it'll do its job and serve its purpose. So we're just going to go up here to this menu area at the top, and we're going to click on shape. And so we just want to create a basic shape here. All right. It comes in right here, but it's black, and so we can't see it. So I'm just going to click on a color so that we can see what we got here. And I'm just going to stretch it out. And the idea is I'm just creating an object that my text is going to live on. All right. And I'm going to bring this, to the lower portion of the screen. Doesn't really matter where, just so you can kind of get an idea of where it's going to animate in and animate out. All right. So that's my first shape. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to option click this shape. And what that's going to do is let me create a duplicate of the same exact thing. And I'm just trying to style this a little bit to make it not quite as plain as just a rectangular box. And so I'm going to take this, this next shape and I'm going to turn it to white. And I'm just going to lay it over the top of my first shape, and just something to kind of give it a little bit of a design element, if you will. So I'm going to click and drag to select all of those, and then I'm going to right click on the shape object. I'm going to go down and we're going to align them. So align objects, and I'm going to left align them basically. All right. So that keeps them all together. So that's our basic shape. So now let's take a couple more steps in the design. So I'm going to take this shape. All right, instead of it being a basic color fill, I want to change that. I'm going to change it to an advanced gradient fill. And that's basically just going to create a color gradient that will be a little more interesting than just the plain color fill. All right. I guess I'll leave it like that for now. I think that's fine for the purposes of the video. So now that I have created my lower third graphic, or the shape where my text is going to live, I'm going to select everything here, and I am going to right click on them to group them together. So this is basically creating one graphic that can be moved around as one object. All right. So that's our first grouping there. And so the next step is we're going to create the text that's going to live on top of that graphic. So let's say that this is a speaker or a presenter that's going to be in your live stream. Maybe it's your pastor or somebody. And so that's going to be a name is going to be there. All right. And then I'm going to click on that to select it. You can click off of it. When you click on it, you can tell that you've actually got it selected. Now I'm going to use the Command key on Apple with the plus or the minus key to enlarge or to make it smaller. All right. And so for purposes of this video, we're just going to take that, drop it over the top, and I'm going to change it to a different font, and I'm going to also change the font color. So we'll try this. We'll make it a bit bolder. We'll change the color to white. Okay. And then I'm going to actually click on that name again. I'm going to Option Shift again to duplicate that. And then I'm going to select that title, and I'm going to change this. This is going to be, say, a position or a title, something like that. So just to give you an idea of what this is going to kind of be. All right, so then you can also use the method that I showed you before to make that text smaller, or you can go over and make it smaller in the font window. All right, and so we're going to go and remove this bold and change it to something that's not quite as bold. All right. And so this is just quick and easy. Maybe this can be a little bit bigger. All right, but you get the general idea of what you're going for here. And so I'm going to select both of these by clicking on them. So click once and then shift click the next item. And so now I have them both selected. I'll be able to right click and do the alignment. I'm going to left align those so that they are positioned right. All right, so that's pretty good. And you get the basic idea of what your lower third is. And this can be, all this can be resized to, you know, whatever is appropriate for what you're trying to do. So you get the general idea, and that's basically your lower third graphic, right? So now what we want to do is we want to animate that in, have it hold on screen for a little while, and then animate it out. And so the way that we do that is we're going to take each section one at a time. So I'm going to grab my shape object, which was the first item that we created. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to go up to my view window, and I want to make sure that I can see my object list. So go down to show object list, and here's a shortcut for it as well. Select that, and it shows you the objects that you have created in your presentation. So this first group was my background for my text. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rename this lower third BG for background. Okay, just so that you can identify what you're looking at. And you can also scroll over these and just slide them to the left or to the right so that you can see a little bit better what you have there. All right, so that's my first object, is the background for the text. And my second object here is my actual text. So I'm going to right click on those. I'm going to group them together. And then I'm going to double click to rename that. And we're just going to say text. All right. So now those are the two objects that are basically in this lower third. Just basic background, basic text. And now this is very simple. Before we go any further, something that you need to remember about these simple graphics. And sometimes you have volunteers that may not know how to create a lot of this content. It's not their day job to create content for a living, right? So getting them used to something that's a lot easier so that they can wrap their heads around it is going to be good. And it's going to be good for you because it can take a lot of weight off of you with the amount of content that needs to be created for the church. You'll be able to delegate, let somebody else take on some of these other tasks so that it frees you up to learn other gear, learn other software, or what have you. Volunteers can be scarce at times, and the time it takes for us to train and develop them, it's time, right? So you got to do what you can to try to get them acclimated to what needs to be done for your particular ministry. Now, once that's done, we're going to animate these objects in, let them hold for a moment, and then animate them out. We do that by selecting my first group, which is going to be my just my background. And I'm just going to animate this onto the stage. Now, there's no right or wrong to this. It doesn't matter the order because basically during this process of building out the animation, you'll be able to rename and reconfigure the way that things animate in and the order in which they animate in. So first off, we're going to take this shape We're going to go up to our tools in the upper right-hand corner of Keynote, and we're going to click on Animate. All right, and so first we're going to deal with the build in. So just so you know, understand what's going on, we're going to build in. We're going to set this up to where it holds for a moment, and then we're going to build it out. All right, so our first animation is build in. We're going to add an effect to it. All right, the effect that I'm going to choose is a simple move in effect. All right, so you can see what that does. We can hit preview again, and it just basically moves it in, gives it a little bit of a bounce. All right, I'm going to uncheck the bounce. You may like it, you may not. As you go through this process of animating things and seeing how they actually animate in and out, you will decide how you want things to look and what you want to happen. All right, so we hit preview and it just animates in. So a couple of things that we want to do. First of all, I want this to animate in a little bit quicker than that, so I'm going to go to 0.6 seconds. By default, it was at 1 second. I'm going to do this at less than a second, so 0.6 is what we're going to try. And great, that animates in a little bit faster. The other thing that I want to show you, you want to go to Keynote's preferences, because this is probably not already checked for you if you've never done this before. And you want to go into slideshow, and this little checkbox that says apply motion blur to animation is the one that you want to make sure is checked and it's turned on. If it's not turned on, the animation is going to be a little bit, let me see if I can show you. You may not notice it if you're not used to looking at this all the time. It's a little bit choppy. It's not really moving as smooth as it could move. And so that's what that motion blur does to the animations. It puts a slight motion blur on them and helps them to come across a little bit smoother. So make sure that that's turned on. And then when we hit preview, it just kind of slides in nice and smooth, and that's great. So that's the first animation. The second animation is going to be over our text, and so we're going to grab that inside of our object list, and we're going to build that in. We're going to apply the same to that. It's going to move in. I'm going to uncheck the bounce, and I'm going to bring it down to 0.6 seconds as well, so that they both animate in at the same time. All right, so when I hit preview on that one, that one's going to slide in. All right, so now that both of these are animated, you want to go and take a look at your build order. So our build order is here, and what happens in the build order is it's showing you everything that's happening inside of your animation. So first, your object list is showing you all the objects that are within the animation, and the build order is going to show you the order in which everything animates on and off the screen. All right, so if you don't see this build order, just make sure that you go to the view window and make sure that hide or show build order has been checked, so that you can actually see the build order and know how you're building this out. So right now, these two items are animated, but they would animate separately. So what you want to do to bring those together, because we want them to come onto the screen at the same time, is we're just going to click and drag to group these builds together. All right, so click and drag up, and you'll see a little blue line show up. And if you notice, that pulled both of these animations together. Let me pull them back out so you can see the difference. So you got 1 and 2 here, but when I click and drag them together, boom, they are together. Now when I hit preview on this build order, both items will animate in. All right. Okay, but now that's still not exactly what I want it to do. And what it's doing is one item is animating in, and after that item animates in, the second item is animating in. All right, so if you look at this second item in our list is the text, and the text is coming in after build 1. But I want the text to actually animate in with build 1. So I'm going to click on that, and now when I hit preview, both items animate in. Now, let me show you what happens if that text were back at the 1 second that it was originally. All right, so you see how that animates in? It's not quite as smooth. It isn't timed out right. And with these graphic animations, it's timing is everything. How they animate onto the screen is going to make a big difference in how professional these things look. So by clicking and making them animate on at the same time, you get more of a fluid, smooth movement. All right, so there you go. Incidentally, you know, sometimes you may not see some of these items that you're trying to find. Clicking on the item itself will bring up functionality that might not be visible to you at the moment. So just make sure that if you're looking for something and it's not in a particular window, that you click on it to make sure that you're pulling up everything that you need to see. All right. So there you go. That's your preview. That's animating onto the screen. Now, in many cases, you could stop right there because if you were to put this into Ecamm Live or something like that, you could easily just let it animate onto the screen and then fade it off the screen or, you know, turn it off or whatever you want to do. But I'm going to show you how to build it out so that the whole process is a little bit more professional and that it animates onto the screen, holds for a little bit, and then animates off the screen. All right, so now we're going to build out. And so what we're going to do, we're going to just click on this background graphic that we created first, and we're going to go up to the upper right-hand corner of Keynote and go to the build out section. Okay, so just check on build out, and we're going to add an animation to that. This time, the animation that we want to add is going to be, move this over so we can see, we're going to move out, but we're going to fade and move. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow that object to move and then gradually fade out. The reason that we want to do this is because if I were to just do a regular move, and you can change these animations to whatever you want to try to use or whatever you want to test. That's the whole idea, is to create your own content, your own ideas, just see what they do. They can be very basic and not everything is going to work for you. But you know, you want to try it out and see what they do. So this move actually lets it move out, but it moves all the way across the right side of the screen. And that would look kind of weird inside of your live stream. So you want it to kind of disappear a little bit sooner than that. And that's why we're going to choose this fade and move effect. And so it's going to move off to the right and slowly fade out. So I want that fade out to happen a little bit faster. And let me preview that and see what that looks like. Okay, so yeah, I like that. It's disappearing just slightly faster than it was before. All right. And so we're going to do the same thing to the text. So we click on our text, we go to the build out effect, and we add the effect move or fade and move. All right. So when we add that fade and move effect, now that item is exiting off the screen as well. All right, and so now we have the same issue where these items would have animated out separately. So I'm going to take my text and I'm going to group it together just like I did before. And now these two items are grouped together, and the text would have animated after build 3. And let's take a look at what that looks like. So that's not what we want. I want it to animate out at the same time as my text box animates out. So instead of after build 3, I actually want this text to animate out with build 3. So when I click on preview now, everything animates out. All right. So my text is slightly behind my box. All right. And that's probably a timing issue. Yep. So when I go up here and I look at my timing, I'm still at 1 second, whereas my text box is animating out at 0.6 seconds. So now when we hit preview, boom, everything moves exactly the way that you want it to move. All right. So if you notice now, we've got one more step that we want to take. This is animating in, and then it animates right off. All right. In order to slow this down so that it doesn't move away so quickly, we're going to go down to build 3, and it's happening after build 2, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to add a delay to that. So we're going to add some time to it. We can just type in 3 seconds just to give an idea for the purpose of this video. So after build 2, we move on to build 3, and we're on the build out section of this animation. And this delay is going to cause it to hold for 3 seconds before it actually builds out. This can be any time that you want it to, just whatever feels right to you, giving your viewers enough time to read the text that's on the screen. Holds and then moves out. All right. So preview shows you how it animates in, holds, and then animates out. All right, and so that's it. That's basically the animation, and that's your lower third. And you can save this as a template. You can do whatever you want to it. You can rename it. You can design things differently, however you see fit. So now, once that's done, the next thing that we need to do is we need to export this graphic out. And we need to make sure that the background on this, which is currently black, that shows up as a transparent background so that this can be overlaid over another video. All right, so the way that we do that is we simply go up to Keynote's file menu, and you scroll down to export, and you're going to export as a movie. All right. And when that window comes up, this is going to be a self-playing movie. That's fine. You want to put these times at 0. You don't need those timing anything else out. You've already set your delay. Everything is set the way it needs to. It just needs to play through as is. So we are at 30 frames per second, and that's fine for the purposes of this video. And then this right here, you want to make sure that you have checked Apple ProRes 4444. That is the only codec that Apple has that's going to create a transparent background. So make sure that that is checked, and then make sure also that this is export with transparent backgrounds, okay? So that is going to have your export set up the right way. You're going to click next and name it whatever you want, export it out, and that's it. All right, now let's hide Keynote and go and take a look at what we did. All right, cool. So it animates on the screen and it animates off, and this clear background is showing you that it is actually transparent. All right, so let me show you that animation that we just created over here in Ecamm Live now. So let's see, it animates on, then animates out. All right. All right, guys. So listen, I hope that helped. If it did, don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and we will see you in the next video.